But let's get it started. Steve actually did a really good job and put our format together because we were kind of
We're kind of winging it.
winging it, but we were winging it in a very structured way. So so for those of you who are new, welcome to Asians Read. This is our Friday night stream where we talk about Oriental Adventures and all the issues that the Asian community kind of faces in the tabletop gaming space. It is an awesome time. I love doing this with Steve, and I've loved this even more since we started bringing on guests. And this is our second week of guests. Next week we have two. Both from the Unbreakable project. So I'm really excited about that. Asians Represent is Asians Represent, but we have like an all Unbreakable one next week. I can't wait. Asians Represent is doing an entire we're trying to stream more. And so Steve doesn't know this. Well, maybe he does if he checks his Discord. But I'm going to be streaming on this channel tomorrow with 7 writers and illustrators from Unbreakable, and we're going to be playing Drawful 2. Tomorrow afternoon at 2 p.m. So if anybody wants to come watch us draw things really poorly on our phones, check that out. But right now we're going to dive into Oriental Adventures. Before we do that, we want to A, introduce the people who are here, B, take care of any news, and then C, dive into some really emotional stuff with families, clans, and Caste.
Oh boy.
Yep. So I'm Daniel, one of the co-hosts of Asians Represent Project and the GM of Dungeons and Asians, and yeah, I mean, you know me. Let's move on. We got Steve.
Oh, thanks, Daniel. I've been here for so long. Thanks for throwing like low key kind of like shade at me for just. It's better when guests are here. I don't take it personally at all.
No, but Steve, you're supposed to also say, "Hey, I'm Steve. I'm a TTRPG writer."
You're right. I can say that now. Hi, my name's Steve. My pronouns are he, him. I am a TTRPG writer as of last Tuesday, or is it 2 weeks ago? Time is a construct.
2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago.
Quarantine is really messing around with the time, but I'm a TTRPG writer in this current year.
In this current year, I'm a writer.
Yeah. I'm also one of the crew of Asians Represent. I play Ning on the Dungeons into Asians actual play of D&D, and I'm excited to dive into Oriental Adventures because this is my Sisyphusian punishment, I guess.
I wouldn't say it's punishment. I think we're doing the community a great service. We're taking ownership of this harmful product, and we're moving forward in a productive manner. So let's get to our guests.
Yes.
Ajay, do you want to start?
Sure. Hi, folks. My name is Ajay. I use he, him pronouns. You may know me as the patron saint of play-by-posts. You may also know me as the guy who makes POC and TTRPG sad all the time in a good way. You may also know me as the person who's been working first on a weird steampunk sailing RPG setting for Genesis called The Gods of New Braemar, and more recently for Bolt, which is my personal Heartbreaker project. There's a Discord for it if you want to see some play-by-posts of it. And part of that involves writing settings for it, including neon 80s Desi action, and also a fantasy setting that's in the same world. So I 800 years back.
So throw the link to that Discord in the Twitch chat so people can join that.
Definitely.
And then send it, because I'm already in that Discord, but send me a link and I'll put that link in the description to the video when the VOD goes up on our YouTube channel.
Hell yeah.
Okay, and then we have one other guest who is joining us from the future.
From the future.
Hello, it's Saturday. It's Saturday in Manila. Hi, I'm Pam. I think some of you guys know me as Pamu. Other people might know me as the Dovetailer. I've been writing for maybe a year, I guess, on tabletop. I am also the editor-in-chief of a group called Play Without Apology. We do video games, online spaces, community, safe stuff. I think on the writer front, my first Kickstarter was Rookwood, so that went live. Then on my games, you might have seen Sundo around. It's a PTBA hack where you play psychopomps and you do not have any of your memories. And as you are ferrying the souls of the dead, That's when you realize that you used to be human and that the world is a lie, and you get to choose between going for your old memories or going for who you were supposed to be as you gain power. So that's my little PTBA thing. Most of the local front knows that I do a lot of blades. Like, I'm called the Queen of Knives for a reason. But my scoundrel stuff is not really be queer, do crimes. It's more be queer, throw a revolution. So that's my big project. My other big project, which a lot of the RPGC people make fun of me for because I'm always crying over it. It's called Waking the Dead. It's going to be a hunter thing because I used to be a World of Darkness player, but I was very frustrated at how white it was. So I ended up making an entire world out of it instead of using the default WOD. And a lot of my players were like, this is a lot more interesting. Why don't you make it a game? And those are like famous last words. I've been working on that for a very long time.
I feel that.
Yeah, I don't have any special Discord for my stuff, but I do have a Patreon, and all of my things are on itch. The Blades hack that I made is completely free because it is based off some young adult novels. And I do have an entire supplement plan for the Dagger Isles. It's going to be called Namayan. And the playbooks are already up if you want to take a look at it, although they are custom made for my setting. I will fix it eventually together with a map and with cultural information for people who want to kick around in the Dagger Isles. So
that's sick. And your socials are below your face, your camera, so people can find you. Wow, that's awesome. That was both of those. Damn, Steve, we're not doing enough.
I know, right? Like I feel like a baby here, but no, that's amazing. I feel like a baby in the best possible way.
We're not,
great.
We're not doing enough. We're gonna have to work on that, Steve. We're gonna have to start releasing more stuff. But let's get it.
It's not a race. It's not a race.
It's not a race. It's true. It's true. It's true. Let's move into what this stream is about and things we're looking for. This is not a critique of game mechanics, like crunchy game mechanics. This is a critique of any, culturally coded things that are in Oriental Adventures. I think the events of this week are kind of a good primer into what we're looking for. Steve, what are the 3 things that we're looking for when we read through Oriental Adventures?
Yeah, so this is obviously like a lot of emotional labor, but the 3 things we use to kind of like guide us in our discussions here is as we go through the text, we're looking for examples and examples of Asians being seen as violence. We're looking for Asians as being seen as savage or uncivilized or generally like in need of saving. And lastly, we're looking for any instances where Asians are fetishized or even like exotified. Some really harmful stereotypes and what have you, and oftentimes very insidious because they just kind of fly under the radar. But as we kind of go through the text, those are the 3 things I think we're going to look out for and call them out as however we identify, see that, read it, and react to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think the one sort of news thing to kind of talk about leading up to this is Heroes of the Orient. So Steve and I, we've talked about Heroes of the Orient on this stream before, but you and I had never actually read it. And
yes,
so a fan of the stream, fan of the show, actually sent me some screenshots from the books and then sent me the books. So I took a look at them, and I was just taken aback by just how bad they were. So I took to Twitter and I tweeted and I was like, this is the worst thing I've seen since Oriental Adventures. I have never tweeted like that before. I was legitimately angry. This is the kind of book where they had Oriental as a human language. It was a language in the book. And it described humans. There was a human variant called the Orient. Yeah. And it was just bad. And so I tweeted it, and I've never publicly on stream that's different. But I've never on like my Twitter or our podcast or anything said something is the worst. I've never put those words in front of anything. And when I saw that, I couldn't think of another word. And what followed was just this like complete Twitter shitstorm. Like my phone was blowing up and I honestly couldn't handle it because there was just so much. There was so much support from the community, which was amazing. But it also brought out a lot of people who felt emboldened to defend something like that. It brought out people who said, no, you know what? I have lots of Asian friends, and I still call them Oriental. Why is that bad? There was one guy who was like, just Google Oriental. It's talking about Asians. I'm like, that's
Yeah,
not the point.
I remember that.
And then that dude, I called that dude out, and we talked, and then he ended up like saying, like, you know what? I'm not going to use that anymore. So that's a moral victory. But
Right.
a couple days later, the creator of Heroes of the Orient, Monsters of the Orient, and the one with the sexy lady holding the sword, I forget what that one was called.
It's still it's Heroes of the Orient, Unearthed Arcana for Kensei.
There we go. And he actually tweeted and said, hey, I'm taking off. It's come to my attention that this stuff was bad, and I'm taking all of these products off DM's Guild. And we're talking like some of the best-selling products on DM's Guild. And he took them down. And I was like, oh, my God, something happened. And so, he started reaching out to members of the community, asking for sensitivity readers. And I think the general consensus was, I'm not touching that or having my name associated with that as long as it's called that or has those terms. And I reached out to him via email. And I was like, hey, I just want to check in and see how you're doing. I'm sure by now you saw the tweet, and this is the reason why, you took this down. But I wanted to reach out to let you know that while my tweet was, aggressive and very, very candid about how I felt about your product, I want to let you know that that's not how I feel about you. And I reached out to talk to the guy and just check in on him. And what happened was we actually had a really awesome email conversation. He talked about how, this kind of product came from a place of admiration, but also a place of admiration that was full of ignorance, but not in a facetious way or anything like that. He just like, I think Asia's cool. I want to put stuff out there that's Asian. And his passion for Asia, and I will say that with quotes, kind of caused him to overlook some very important things. And by very important things, I mean the most important things that go into making a product that features Asian cultures or any culture that isn't your own. And so we talked about this back and forth, and, I basically told him exactly what, a lot of people told Jetpack 7, the people who were trying to make Mystic Asia. You can't just hire a sensitivity reader and make things better. The challenging thing about being a sensitivity reader is that the creator of the project isn't obligated to make any of the changes that you present to them. They aren't obligated to actually take into account whatever you did. Maybe they're contractually obligated to put your name on it. But if they put your name on a project and they don't take into account any of the changes that you pointed out, you're actively ruining your reputation as a sensitivity reader. And I've actually had to request for creators to not put my name on their project because it was apparent that they weren't going to make the changes that I asked for, and that they really just wanted to have my name associated with it or my platform associated with it. And so I told them that. I said, hey, you can't just slap sensitivity readers on this. And I think everybody else who emailed him told him that, this is more than just a sensitivity reading issue. This is a deeply rooted structural issue in your product. And I said, you know what you need to do? You need to actually just, if you really care about this and you really, really feel like you must redo these products, you have to start from scratch. And it has to be an all Asian team in order for this to be right. And I then followed that up with a question, and I need to check my email to see what he said. But I basically said, why do you need to make this product when there's already, RPG Southeast Asia, or there's already Unbreakable, there's already, Jackie Death by Mage putting out stuff like Mad, there's already Asians Represent, there are already Asian creators putting stuff out there. And so I just asked them, why do you need to do that? And that's kind of where our conversation ended.
Yeah.
But I will, put something out there. He did tell me that his stuff on DM's Guild is his primary source of income.
Okay. Yeah.
That is
That's
one thing to consider. And, as human beings, I would never want to take away somebody's ability to put a roof over their head, food on their table, support their
Yes.
family. So I told him that straight up. I was like, look, if you want to do this because you know who your audience is and you know what they want and this supports you, then here's how to do it right.
Mm-hmm. We have a lot of interesting issues, actually. I just wanted to say that this kind of cuts into, let's say, how a lot of Filipino creators are at the moment, because I think that anybody who's been around tabletop, at least for the past 2 years, kind of blinked and saw like, oh, RPGC is a thing. Where the hell do you guys come from? Everybody just sort of flooded online. There is a really interesting dissonance with many Filipino creators. We do not know what it means to make a Filipino product. So you have a lot of creators that dwell in other worlds because that is the media that is easy to consume, particularly if it's American or Japanese. Those are the only two options. Then you have creators that they try very hard to make something Filipino, but the Philippines is an archipelago where we actually have over 100 languages. They're not just dialects, they're languages. And Manila is very different. Like where I am from is very different from literally a province away because of the colonial experience. So, and that resonated very deeply with me because I grew up in Vancouver. So when I came to the Philippines and you asked me, are you Filipino? I'm like, I guess, I'm not sure, and it's difficult on a creator front because we don't see ourselves anywhere. So when you make a product that is Filipino, you are struggling with yourself and your inability often to have an identity in the traditional sense. And you are also struggling from many other Filipinos who are hungry to see something of themselves. And if they don't see what they feel is Filipino, they will be very upset. There have been a couple of products in the past where they were Filipino worlds, and many other Filipinos, when they saw that, the only thing they could say was, hey, that's cool, followed by, I can't do that, or followed by, I don't want to touch it because I feel very intimidated by this product because I want to do it right. So that's why there's a very large range of Filipino products now, because many of us have just told ourselves, okay, the angst is real. We don't know what to do. But if we don't make something, somebody's going to end up speaking for us is the thing. And that's like the worst possible option. So I get loud and proud on Twitter a lot because there are many Filipinos out there from the diaspora. And I've seen a lot of them say, I don't feel Filipino enough. And I'm like, no, there's no such thing. You are, and that's it. The sum of your parts is Filipino. Whatever that means, we'll find it together because we don't really have a choice. Yeah, so.
I vibe with that so hard.
Yeah. Visibility is so important.
It is.
And I get that feeling of like not feeling like basic enough of like I moved to the States when I was 2, like in my entire life, I had never spent more than 3 months in India. And like, look, I have this sorry to bother you white voice. Let's be real. But like, I'm realizing that comes out in the stuff I write. Like, they're not desi stories, like they're not that pulled into like Hindu mythology or Indian history or even Indian language. Like I speak scraps of Hindi, that's it. But what they are is they're desi American stories. And I put a tweet about this. Like literally all of the stories I write are about technology, about how technology feeds into imperialism, how everything technological gets fed into military purposes. A lot of the characters I play are people who have a lot of guilt or are professionals who have a lot of guilt about what they did with that degree. Like I have one character who like is a Star Wars character, a med school dropout. You know, like that's the kind of like they're very basic American stories about
Right.
feeling like you have to work for evil because that's the sensible thing to do. Like my mom
Yeah.
still is confused about why I didn't take the internship for that defense company I interned for in college. Like that kind of thing. You know, like you'll see a lot of Daisies in like finance and tech
Yeah.
monopolies and defense companies. Because there's this willingness to work for evil if it pays the bills well enough. And that comes out in my stories. They're Daisy American stories. They're not like they're different. And I'm trying to accept
Yeah.
that.
I feel
It's
I
also
feel
difficult.
attacked for my day job.
Oh my God.
I feel attacked.
It is so complex. Like everyone
Yeah.
comes from like such complex backgrounds. We all become like complex people. And
Yeah.
and this is why I love these streams so much, because
Mhm.
it's really like Daniel, your thread was like your view and everything like that. It really resonates with certain people, but then there are other pieces of it that I'll be honest, like didn't really resonate with me.
Yeah,
Some people have opinions about like Oriental Adventures and like how representation grows, and I don't always jive with all of it. And that is a product of how I'm brought up, my worldviews, how my family has raised me, and like the privileges and biases and microaggressions that I experience on a day-to-day basis.
Totally.
Yeah, it's also it's a constant struggle, especially if you're coming from a not from a diasporic background, from a country that was colonized. So everybody has heard the joke already. Why is your English so good? Now, for Filipinos, that is especially harmful because the people who usually ask me why my English is so good are American, and America colonized us. And our own history insists that that was a golden period. I could find you guys books that says that the American period was not that bad. It's literally in texts. And
Yikes.
now, yeah, right. Like I grew up listening to that bull crap. That's how my entire middle school and high school was. So you have a whole bunch of Pinoys who are raised believing that it's totally okay because we're the perfect model minority, precisely because you cannot identify Filipino. We're so good at blending in. That's what a lot of people see from us. And you will also grow up here hearing stories about how OFWs are heroes because we do the jobs that nobody else will do.
What's an OFW?
Overseas Filipino worker. And that's it. Like as long as you do the service and you do the dirty work of a country, you're doing good. But when they come home, they're worshipped here, and yet the labor side is down here. If you were doing the same work that your overseas Filipino worker relatives were doing, you are seen as less because you're supposed to get a college degree because that's what matters here. It's a really strange dissonance for us. And if as a creator, you will realize that you have so much to unpack and that you are also grown, like you're literally a coconut. You're brown on the outside, but you're white on the inside, and you have to wrestle with that a lot because you could be hurting yourself and you could be hurting other people. And that's also why sensitivity reading is not just, at least for me, it's not just a matter of being the color or being the minority or whatever, because the blind spots are very real. Mm-hmm. And I've gotten into fights with other Filipinos about it, where they were like, no, it's enough that I'm Filipino. I'm like, no, it's not. And I'm sorry, but also not sorry. You have to check your privilege.
like this is when we start talking about anti-blackness among like Asians of like, especially in the US. Like I can specifically speak for Daisy's in Massachusetts. Is like there's this very easy allure to like follow the white person playbook of you fit the mold of what they expect you to be, you know, nerdy, smart at math person. And you play into the same tropes of like worshiping the American dream, playing into anti-blackness, like being the kind of person who like takes on the trappings of Black culture like white people do,
Yeah.
and build up the same opinions of people. Like, I remember growing up being like, if you work hard and you like min-max yourself in school, you will get that American dream. You will get that success.
Yeah.
With no concept of, for a lot of people, that has not worked for generations because a specific set of white people made that so.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I remember there's this whole fracas about that. What was the guy, like Ziad, the activist, Ziad Ahmed? Like, he was some like Gen Z, like he's like 19 activist type. And there was this whole fracas about him being like doing some activist things, some very Black Lives Matter thing, and someone being like, wait, isn't his dad like a C-suite executive for Citibank? And that became a whole fracas of like people like kind of dunking on his TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like, listen, you have to get where this guy's coming from. This guy was groomed to get into Yale from age 10. You know, like he was very much like that was his goal from the jump. And like I looked at his website and I was like, all of these like Desi families who like their parents came here in the mid 90s purely because they were a doctor or engineer or like MBA, purely because of that. No other reason. Like that's how they got here. That's their ticket in. And then they like see this kid's website and it's like polished and it has like Washington Post, New York Times, activist, this, entrepreneur, that. Like all of these parents are going to go to their high school kids and like wave a printout of this website and be like, why aren't you doing what he's doing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's where the anti-blackness is.
Yep.
Feel that?
Yeah.
That's where the privilege is.
Oh God. I almost don't want to read Oriental Adventures. I just want to like interview the two of you. and
See,
just, like,
I was
talk about this
just
more.
thinking that.
Oh my God.
Are we just making an episode of the podcast?
I do have a rant about caste and a rant about honor. I think we should get to the book.
I think we should get to the book because you know, a lot of people. I can't. You know, it blows my mind that some people were tweeting us and they're like, "Yeah, I just watched all 8 hours of this," and I was like, "What?"
I think I wouldn't downplay that. There's a lot of like, even I've gone back and like listened to it like a little bit, and there's a lot of catharsis and just like,
Yep.
here are these people, Daniel, Steve, their guests, whoever it might be, just like we're not even dunking on it. And I think that's what is really important to me. It'd be really easy. The easy way out would be like, this is garbage. Here's why it's garbage. Blah, blah, blah. Ha, ha, ha. But we dive pretty deep into these kind of topics and these thoughts, and we are very genuine and authentic about the way we feel about it.
Oh yeah.
And I think that is very valuable today. And
I don't think we're gonna get past 5 pages today.
My goal is to get to
really-
honor, and that's it.
I think we're gonna get to honor. I don't think we're gonna actually get to talking about honor. It's possible
boy.
if we really focus. I think we can, because I know that Steve was just like primed to talk about honor.
Did you guys see my tweet thread where I was actually going into the books before the
Yes.
stream?
Yeah.
I did see some of that. Also, speaking of your tweets, did Witchy win? Because I know you had a poll for your makeup, and your makeup was
Yes.
fucking on point.
Yeah.
Did you get to go for the green lipstick?
I did it because when I was looking at the green, I was like, it's not going to come out well. So I'm
Yeah.
like, blue is
Cameras with the
It looks
lighting and
so
stuff.
good.
I get you.
Yeah. I'm gonna do my nails this weekend, and I'm gonna cut my hair. I don't know what color they're gonna be. I'm gonna let my girlfriend do that. But if any of you have a color, let me know.
Yeah.
My toes are bright red.
Ooh.
So gotta figure out the fingies.
I'm currently working on makeup to figure out how to contour, because like, oh, that's like really nice, but like if I just like get like a nice like shade under there.
Oh boy.
So see, I
Oh,
just
boy.
take a Sharpie and then just go. And then I
That's
go.
Johnny Bravo
that
look.
that is not how you contour.
And then I
Just
make a,
FYI.
and then I make
Gonna
a
save you some heartache.
I make up a 6-pack with some pecs, and then I do all the lines, and then I draw in the veins too, so I don't have to flex.
So we're gonna throw that away along with your cargo shorts. Don't worry about that. We'll talk about that later.
Yeah, I think I'm just gonna cosplay as the true Daniel at a con and wear cargo shorts and then Sharpie on muscles. That's what I think I'm gonna do. Or we should get art done and it's just like 2 distinct art styles, and it's you, Steve, and you have like very well contoured muscles, and it's me with cargo shorts and drawn on muscles. I think that has to happen.
There's gotta be the SpongeBob thing with inflatable muscles.
Exactly.
Oh my god, yeah, I love it.
Exactly. Yo, cargo shorts. If we ever make like merch, I want to do enamel pins, but I just want it to be cargo shorts.
First.
We'll talk about this.
We'll talk about.
We'll talk about this.
All right. I vote
Fail
we get
that
to
try,
reading.
like,
Listen,
we'll talk about this.
listen. We'll make it D&D, and we'll just have like some sort of like we'll make like Waleed, like Amar's character, but with cargo shorts, like modern cargo shorts. I think that'll sell really well. So to me, I'll buy them all.
You know what? This is awesome. Now I'm motivated to read Oriental Adventures. This is great.
Let's get
As
to
the
it.
producer, this is what I do. So we're on, for those of you who are following, page 31. We have done 8 hours of this, and we have made it 30 pages into the book.
Yeah.
So if we're ever going to get to anything else, any other product like L5R or Al-Qadim, coronavirus will be gone by the time we get to those products.
There's a lot.
There's a lot. So let's start with this. I'm already seeing some things that, you know, are worth talking about, because I know, Steve, you really wanted to get to honor, but you can't really get to honor without talking about family, because the two within this picture of Asian stereotypes are so unbelievably linked. Unbelievably linked. Now, we go in here and they kind of start by saying, well, what is family? Family is important. Family isn't just your father, brothers, and sisters. They also don't even say mother.
No.
You know,
That's the first mistake.
that's the first mistake, because it's like just your father and then your father's children. There is no mother here. But then they say it's an entire set of relations: uncles, grandparents, cousins, great uncles, aunts, and in-laws. Yet there is still no mother, which baffles me.
I
'Cause,
literally,
Say it. Just say it.
Like,
literally.
look,
This is what we're here for.
I love my mom. Go follow her on Twitter, YogaMom8. But seriously, like Ajay, go ahead.
Like, literally before the stream started, like I was like, "Hi, mommy." The whole folks in the stream say hi. Like, literally, like my mother's opinion about things specifically matters to me.
Yeah.
In a very core way. And that was my dad popping into the room. Like,
And being like, what about me?
he doesn't care.
Daddy, I love you too. Like,
My-
ease up a little bit.
My dad always tells me, "Why are you asking me for permission? You both know that this isn't going to work, right?"
My mom was the one who got me into D&D. My mom was the one who was like, we got to get Daniel these D&D books. Like, I'm playing D&D with my family right now because of the quarantine. We're like, how do we bond? I was like, I'm going to play D&D with you. And we play D&D every Sunday together now.
Oh my gosh, that's so sweet.
And so, like, the exclusion of mothers from this is just...
It's a mistake.
I don't know if it's like if it's just like a really bad typo.
No,
it feels a lot to me actually as a very American fantasy on how things are supposed to go.
Yeah, this is the 80s.
Because it's the 80s, yeah. So you have the whole strongman image of the dude who works for the American dream for his family, and the wives are just supposed to be okay with that. But that's so totally not. Sorry, got a call. But that's so totally not Filipino. I think any Filipino friend has probably talked to you guys about their titas and how like the auntie is a thing already in Southeast Asia and in the rest of
and
Asia.
South Asia too.
And, right. And then you have the tita here, where it's just a whole bunch of matriarchs, likely sisters who grew up together, and their opinion is gold. Like, the women here are a thing. So any Filipino who was reading that text would be like, this is completely inaccurate.
Yeah.
Where are the women? Where are the moms? Where are the daughters? It's just, guys, really, men don't run things down here with a household.
Like,
it's the women. So
it the, going back to like those three things that we look for, because this is very clearly like a white person who like looks in and is like, I'm the other, and how can I like take advantage of this situation? And the pessimist in me, and I promise I won't be as this pessimistic throughout the entire thing.
I mean, we haven't had a reason to be optimistic. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
I try really hard. I try really hard to find like cool things in this book to be like, that's a cool idea. For example, like later on, 10 years from now, when we get toward like page like 200, we'll talk about festivals, and I'm actually really excited to see like how they want to represent festivals. That's a big thing, I think. But from this idea of like excluding mothers, I truly feel that it was done so that white people could come in and almost like save.
Yeah. Now that you mention it.
Yeah, okay. That's that salvation bit.
I'm sorry, Steve. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I could see someone being like saying like that's a stretch, or like Gygax never intended this, was completely unintentional. Fair, we won't know. There's no way to know. But the fact of the matter is, you've set up a game through the text as it's written, such that a white person can absolutely come in and save a mother.
Yeah.
And that is harmful.
I did point that out in my tweet before. There are two fantasies that we're dealing with, right?
Yeah.
It's a white boy saves unknowing Oriental female from a restrictive situation, or mighty whitey savior teaches these poor Oriental schmucks the beauty of a freedom society, and that is inherently colonial. There's no such thing as a gentle imperialist or gentle colonizer.
Yeah, I mean that's that third point. It's like Asians are in need of salvation.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And it's disgusting. You've rendered all of your women invisible, and then you basically took a crap on all of my East Asian friends with this text.
Yep.
And then now I'm here going like, where's the Southeast Asian? We exist.
Yeah.
Where is it?
So take a look at this. So this interrelated group of people is called the family or clan throughout these rules. It's just like, okay, we're all a clan. Okay. I will say that I am in I don't even say this as a joke. I am in a family clan. It's a longer story that goes back.
Same.
It's a long story. It's a whole podcast.
Got a large clan also.
Yeah.
But
then you go from there and you say knowing one's family and its collection of alliances and feuds can be vital in Oriental society. It's like every single family is a part of Game of Thrones.
It's like, nah, my family is way more chill than that.
No, it's just like basically what they're saying here is that this Asian society is fragmented, right? They're constantly feuding with each other because they can't get along. And we're going to come in and we're going to show them how to get along, or we're going to fragment them even further. Like, I hate this idea that it assumes that all Asian families have these like really, really strict alliances and they're fighting with each other. Like, I really dislike that because take a look at medieval Europe. Let's be honest.
That's it, real.
Then they go into, then they get into like, okay, well, we're going to say this is what the Asian family looks like, and they're always structured around a clan, and their ancestors are important. So the family also includes its ancestors, especially those who achieved great fame in their own day. And I don't know if that sets you folks off, but it sets me off.
It's like they're missing the point. Like, family's important, sure, but it's like the extended list of cousins and in-laws laterally that matters, not so much ancestors.
For me, it's like those who achieve great fame, those who, and they mean fame by wealth, first of all, and power. It's that, that stereotype of, the model minority, the successful Asian, and only those successful Asians who come to America and send money back home are important.
Yep.
Ignoring all of the Brits who are like trying to find their connection to one of the royal houses or something like that. Like, is that not like a universal thing for people to like try and figure out?
That too, right?
Like, whatever their answers are nobles, like that's not an Asian thing in particular.
It's also difficult, at least on my end, how it's obvious to me that whoever wrote this doesn't really know how interconnected families and a collective consciousness among your blood relatives works. Like, we might not have an honor concept here, but we do have things like hiya, which is kind of like a mix of embarrassment, shame, and I guess discretion at times. Then you also have something like utang ng loob, where it is literally a soul debt. Somebody did something for you, and you and your kids could end up paying that back. So, but that is not honor as Americans understand that. And our interconnectivity has so many layers, and politics change within family depending on who did what and who went where, and whether you're female or male, and what your profession was and what time period that was. So it's, I don't have any other kinder word to say beyond it's kind of insulting that a white person could think that you could even begin to talk about what family means to literally any Filipino. That is completely insulting.
And
to say
again,
the least.
Steve, go ahead.
No, I'll say, Pam, exactly what you described is a game all itself. I would play a PBTA game that's just that, because that's so complex and like has so much heart in it. We actually.
Sorry, go ahead.
No. Tell me.
Steve's like, is there a game?
There's a game already? Yeah.
There's a game?
Just tell me,
I
yes.
actually do want to make a King is Dead hack.
Oh my
And
goodness.
Okay.
It's going to be, you are playing Filipino families.
There is already
And-
one. I will say this. There is already one on Itch. It's called For My Family.
Yes, that's
Oh
from
yeah, I'm
Anthony.
gonna be
Really
able to
good.
post of that.
Yep.
By a
Um,
Filipino American creator.
Yes, he's great. And the one I was going to do is it's a cybernetic future in Manila, because one thing you have to know about our politics here is it's an oligarchy, and power gets passed among just a few families. It's been like that since pre-Spanish times. So we're talking over 400 years of the same people ruling the same areas. So in my hack, you play one sprawling family, and now you are all the children who grew up together, and it is election season in a year. So the people, the rich people that you developed feelings for, and that your entire legacies, this entire world is now in jeopardy because the president has died.
That
And
sounds
now
awesome.
it's election season. So that's my plan.
Oh
That's the
fucking
tagline.
God.
That's the tagline right there. It's election season.
It's a,
Oh my fucking god, I want to play this shit.
It's so rich, and like I'm already getting like my brain is already churning to be like, yeah, let's get into this.
There's so much you can do with that.
And-
Oh my
and
god.
I wish I could have. So when Mark, who is the person who wrote Portuguese Orient, he reached out to me to be a sensitive reader. One of my points to him was like, first of all, I'm not going to be a sensitivity reader. The scope is too large. You have picked too much. Yeah, I want you to like really tone it down. I wish I had given an example like Pam you just gave, where it's like this one thing. This is like one thing is so powerful and impactful that is a game in and of itself. You can spend an entire gaming sessions just talking about this and living through that experience and those emotions.
yeah, that's my family thing is going to be part 2. Part 1 was already Asian acceptance, which is my dread hack on Asian queerness in Asia.
Oh,
That's like one.
What's it called?
Asian acceptance. I can link it in a bit,
Link
but
it.
it's literally it's literally you are an Asian whoever you can choose. You make your character together. Each one of you is actually an emotion of that person, and you're
fuck,
going through the day.
shit.
Holy
Yeah.
fucking fuck.
Okay.
And your heart is the tower. So every time a storm happens, like somebody questioning your sexuality or telling you, why aren't you like other gay people, like that sort of thing.
I
that
will.
is a-
See,
Yeah.
when this quarantine is over, Steve, we have so much
I got the
content,
link.
so
there
much,
it is.
so much in-person stuff to do.
Fuck yeah.
Oh, and also, Steve, you played Starcross for the first time too. So
I played it with Agatha, and it was a time. It was
did you
one
do
of
it
the games.
virtually?
We did it virtually.
How do you do
so
that?
obviously, I can give you links. Basically, we use a spreadsheet and we use rolling to simulate the idea of like a tower.
Oh,
not
cool.
perfect, but like it worked. But I will say, without going into it, because it's not the focus of today,
Yeah.
is that at the end of it, I had to like step away from technology for like an hour and a half and just like journal and think and like have like very discreet conversations with people, just to like work through a lot of like the stuff that came out of it, and a lot came out of it for
Need that
me.
in my life.
Jay, we'll play Scar. I'll set this up.
So wait, so then that means we could play Asian Acceptance on a stream.
Oh, yes, it does.
Okay, we'll talk about this later. We're gonna do this because we're only streaming once a week, and I know that there is more to do. But let's get back into it because we have to get to honor.
We have to get to honor.
We're on a quest to shit on honor here.
Yeah, it's only been an hour. We're like 3 paragraphs.
We're an hour, 3 paragraphs. You know, we got this, and we're only 3 paragraphs in because we got to skip a table.
Yay! Numbers.
So I will say that like birth rank, that's in a lot of like Western RPGs too. It's not very much an Asian thing. It's like it factors in pretty importantly in Harn. So I wouldn't shit on that, but there is a little bit of honor there, as indicated by your birth rank. They do have this interesting thing where certain classes require a family, and certain ones do not. And I don't think it's like overtly offensive. I just think it's not really necessary to have in the game at all because I feel like that's a decision that should be left to the player.
It's like, why does this? Okay, here's my beef with AD&D. Why does this need a table?
Well, welcome to AD&D, and then head over to 3rd edition and 3.5, and it's also tables.
It's like, I don't need a D100 to roleplay for me.
I mean, you know what? This game's honestly pretty table light compared to some other ones.
That's gross.
Steve, aren't you getting into the OSR?
Yeah, and I have thoughts about it.
Yeah, there's a lot of tables. But with this, I think what they're trying to do is create a system for whether or not you have to roll on a birth table and you have to be socially obligated. And they're saying that some professions are not, like the player by default does not have to do that. That's the only reason why they have birth requirements. And I think it's honestly kind of like, it's stupid. There's nothing like offensive about it, but it's just kind of stupid. There's family structure. If you notice here that they immediately dive into the heads of the clans are all male.
Wrong.
Totally wrong.
Yeah, they're all male. These people have never had their ass kicked before.
Yep.
Let's be honest.
Yeah. Die.
Yeah, let's. That's just wrong. I mean,
Oh, that I got emotions about that.
like I like in the back of my head, I could already hear the whipping of a bamboo feather duster.
Oh, that feather duster, man.
I could hear that.
Yours is a feather duster. I didn't get a belt. I got a lot of like manual spankings, which is obviously not okay. But like,
yeah, we're not gonna put a hierarchy on spankings because it's all just being hit.
Yes.
But I got when they said that family units and clans are only headed by dudes, I just thought of all the beatings from my grandma.
Like no part of my family is like this.
Yeah, I know. It's they don't understand. This is them trying to take a look at Asian movies or Asian media and be like, okay, the men are in charge, and like completely disregard like the vastness and breadth of Asian cultures.
Yep.
Like we don't even have to go through the rest of this paragraph because it's wrong for the exact same reason. It makes a broad sweeping stereotype of what Asian families look like and how Asian families function. And they say Asian families, the only people of power are men, even if they, no, it's always just men. And Asian families are always highly structured and women have no power, much to the point where they don't even get mentioned. Right? They've even systematized here how many great uncles or aunts you have. Yet there's
I think
still...
the only reason why I'm not mad is I read this already. If I read this with you, I'd be like, "Purr."
Yeah, you're like brace yourself, like here it comes.
Like I'm gonna go in. I hate it already.
Okay. So let's go to family structures. I am just I'm bracing myself for when they're talking about marriages.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Female members of a oh my God. Female members of a family clan will be married on a die roll of 1 to 5 on a 1d6.
What?
I actually have to like stop you guys there and focus on why this particular section
Oh my God, yes.
really
Yes.
hurts,
Right on.
because I'm not going to speak for my East Asian friends. They have their entire own crap going when it comes to marriage.
Mhm.
But with let's say the Filipino sensibility, there is a very, very large premium placed upon family. And this is usually because we are Catholic or Christian.
Mm.
So you will always hear it from your older relatives. A marriage is between a man and a woman. Anything else is not, it just
Yep.
does not exist, right? And you will get many well-intentioned comments from everybody, your friends, your older relatives, your parents, where they will say, okay, I get that you're trying to be your own person, but your biological clock is ticking. So, and then if you are above the age of 20 and you are not married yet, most people will look at you literally with pity. And they will also say that, we're worried about you and your future, because who's going to take care of you when you're older if you don't have a spouse? So this is again another feeling of how dare this white person
Right.
assume to know my issues as a
Yep.
girl, where you come to every family reunion and you will hear the same comments. You're too fat. Nobody's going to like you. You're thin. Why aren't you eating? Where's your boyfriend from last reunion? Why don't you have a boyfriend yet? Are you thinking of getting married? Oh, you're married already. Why don't you have kids? Is something wrong with you or your husband?
Mm-hmm.
So that entire paragraph was like, okay, men don't get to tell me the unique struggle that girls here have to go to.
Yeah.
And just don't me with this crap.
Don't at me with this. Yeah.
I can't.
What's also really bad is this section, marriage, and I will say to some extent family structure. This family section is the first time they even mention women in this book.
Yeah.
That's not true. They've talked about the opposite sex.
Oh,
yes,
sorry,
that's
you're
true.
right. They talked about the opposite sex.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I gotcha.
You got me,
I got-
Steve. You clearly were paying attention for the past 8 hours and that we read 30 pages.
Yep.
Steve, look
I'm
what you're making me do.
I'm basically Mr. Oriental Adventures.
Look at what you're making me
God.
do.
Yeah, no, cheers. Pam, thanks for sharing that, because like a lot of
Yeah.
that really resonated. I have a little
Yeah.
sister. She's much younger than I am, 6 years younger than I am. Everything you mentioned really resonates, and like it hurts, but not like a microaggression. It hurts like in an empathy kind of way, sympathy kind of way. So thanks for sharing that, because I know
Yeah.
from conversations I've had with her, like it's not easy. Conversations
it's
that I've
really
had like other like elders within my family and my circles,
Yeah.
it's not easy.
Mhm.
I'm the only girl in a family of 6.
Mm.
So you can just imagine how interesting that gets, because the men in your family will tell you men are evil, men are terrible, I don't want you relating with them, but somehow in the distant future you should get married.
Yep.
So there is just so many levels of wrong there, and it's no wonder that a lot of girls here don't even know themselves until it's too late. This is why they get into really bad relationships, for example.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Right? You didn't teach them, you didn't show them. We are unpacking all of that damage, where you put a premium on virginity, you put a premium on innocence, you put a premium on so many things, and women are expected to be superheroes. So you have to somehow be smart, be beautiful, be good, be great, be innocent also, but also be virginal, but also look pretty enough to attract a spouse, but also not too pretty, because that means that other men might go after you.
Yep.
And then you also have to be a good mother, but you also have to be a career woman, but you also have to handle a household.
Yeah.
So-
have kids, but never have sex.
Yes.
Yeah.
Somehow. That's bad.
They
It's a lot.
that's a lot.
Yep.
Shit. dang, we hit 1 hour. That's a lot, Pam. Thank you for sharing that. Honestly,
Yeah, thank you a lot for sharing that.
That's an important perspective that we don't bring to this conversation.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like a really important one. I think
You haven't seen me go on to the polygamy part yet, because
I know that's the next column.
We're coming up to that.
We're coming up to that. So let's try to get there to the polygamy part. They then go into something where they say, relationships are strongest when they are, blood relationships.
Yeah.
Which is it's just stupid. It's just dumb. It's just dumb. Like and not even from like an Asian perspective. That's just like, really, we don't need this here. And then this is just gross. And talking about marriage as a tool to achieve status is another thing that people like white people always associate with Asian cultures and stereotypes.
It's like, I'm sorry, my parents eloped.
Yeah. Actually, Dan, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Are you purposely not reading the text because like it's too like just too much of it?
I think it's just too much because this is a strategy that I'm trying this time around. Is if we go through the text and kind of all four of us kind of point out when we find things that are problematic and then we read them out. Otherwise, we're just never going to get through this unless you think we should read through the text.
I'm okay with the glancing. It's just I'm reading through the text for the first time right now, and like it is harmful.
Yeah.
And I bring like on a wide swath, and we've talked about this before.
Mm-hmm.
If you are a new person to like RPGs and what have you, and you were to read this text in a vacuum, some things are like, that's kind of cool. Then you read other things and it's like, wow, it is very clear that this is a game that is going to like really, really harm me. Maybe not in those specific words, but you're going to feel that like gut instinct where it's like, I should probably not engage with this. And depending on who you are and your background and how much thought you give into it, you might be able to explain it. And polygamy here, reading the text, I get that like that gross feeling in my stomach.
Okay, let's just skip over. Let's go to polygamy then. They talk about adoption, and then they say there's a 1 in 20 chance that any person in the family chart entered the family clan by adoption. I don't know why they have to systematize that. It's just kind of stupid.
It also is for your RPGC friends. Okay, I'll just say not RPGC. I don't want to speak for everybody else, but for your Filipino friends, let's not get started on adoption because there is again a lot. I could probably spend the next 30 minutes talking to you guys about, okay, so if it matters like here, if this person is adopted there, but like TLDR, adoption here is done, especially if your poorer relatives cannot take care of you.
Yep.
So, and they have a word for it. It's slipping my mind right now. I think it's ampon. I'll check with my parents later, but that's a thing. And there's also a weird dissonance where people will say, you were adopted pala. Oh, I see, you were adopted. So it's like you're not quite blood, but I guess you're family. So maybe. So again, white person saying this is how it is, and other people going like, no.
Side note: if you are writing an Asian game and there's like a PBTA style thing, there should be a move for check with your parents.
Oh, that's too real. That's too real. That's
I really want to do a
real.
Blades hack. Yeah, I'm gonna do a Blades hack with girls trying to sneak out for a night out. Because that's literally a thing.
That's super thing.
That's too scary. That's too scary.
But yeah, polygamy. Because
Okay, so let's read the polygamy section. I'll do the reading since I've actually never read this part, and I think that.
Okay.
I don't know about you, Ajay. I don't know if you've read through this yet, but I'm going to.
I've avoided reading it.
Okay, so the two of us, this is gonna be brand new for us. So
oh no!
I will bite the bullet and read it. Okay. Polygamy is being married to more than one wife at the same time. In the societies of the Oriental AD&D game, this is legal and not unknown. Although most marriages are monogamous, only one wife. Polygamy is common only among families of great wealth and power who who must use marriage to secure their alliances and cement their control over other families. The DM should consider the situation carefully before allowing this option. That is the only semi-intelligent statement here. And the DM should just say, like, no, we don't need this in the current way that it's written. If so, he must decide whether the grandfather or father had a polygamous marriage. Polygamy involving any other relative has no effect. What does that mean? Then the DM must determine how many children were born by each wife and what the player character's position is. Let's start with that paragraph. Holy shit. First of all, let's just say, like, this entire paragraph basically tells the players that women in their Asian world are commodities for male power.
Yes.
That is 100% what that paragraph says. And I don't know what they're saying by the DM should consider the situation carefully before allowing this option, because the DM should just consider not using that at all.
Precisely.
Like, I have not seen polygamy much in my experience of being in India. It's like, I don't know where the hell they're pulling that from.
Well, according to this book, you'll only see it in families of great wealth and power.
I don't know. My family's pretty fucking well off.
There is
So
there's a movie on Amazon Prime. It's Order the White Lotus with Gordon Liu. I love that movie. It's fucking amazing.
It's a great movie.
And I see what Gygax and team are going for. In that movie, Gordon Liu's character, he has a brother-in-law. And they fight Pai Mei, and his brother-in-law dies after he's murdered by Pai Mei's student who wants revenge. Gordon Liu's character is like, oh my god, my brother-in-law's wife is now pregnant and has no father to like help them in like the world that we live in. So Gordon Liu, with no like ceremony, no anything like that, just like takes up this role of, I will be there, I will be your family, and any of the traditional like cultural things that a husband will do, I will just fill that role for you. So when it comes to like talking to other people, like getting housing and things like that, I will just be there and support you for it. And because of the society they live in, he takes on the male role of that. And other people in the context of the movie will call him like the husband or like the father or like the soon-to-be father or things like that. And it's just okay. People just like assume that's what it is, and they just like move past it so we can get to like the sweet kung fu parts.
Yeah, let's just first of all like shout out to Gordon Liu.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Like oh my god, Executioners from Shaolin is one of my favorites.
Gordon Liu as like a let's do an Asians watch. We'll start a new.
We will. We actually, I want to do, just to kind of lighten the mood a bit, what I want to do is do an Asians watch, but we're actually going to do Netflix parties. Mm-hmm. And we're just going to chat, chill, and watch Asian movies. So I'll try to arrange something for next week, and we'll figure it out. We'll make it at the most... We'll try to do it for the most time zone appropriate moment. 36 Chamber is also...
36 Chamber is really good, yeah.
Dope.
Sorry, I kind of derailed this there, but like this whole like section is like, it gives me that gut feel where it's like, I don't like where this is coming from. I don't have the lived experience of like to understand, because like polygamy is not something that my family has personally experienced, but something about this text, being someone who identifies as Asian, like makes me feel like this game is like not like this part is not for me, or like if a DM were to use this, I'd be like
out. I'm gone.
I don't know.
I'd be gone.
I don't think this is, to be honest, I don't think this is something I would see a DM using as often as I'd see like a power gamer using it.
Yep.
I think that's very fair. I totally agree with that, actually.
I could see a power gamer using this to secure wealth because they've systematized so much of this over here. Like there are NPC reaction modifiers here. Like this is kind of like, you know what I could see is like when they wrote this, they're like, okay, we're going to put in rules for how to create an interesting backstory for your character. But they just put in these rules for just how to make the vilest shit you can. And it's bad.
Yeah.
and it's not good. So let's.
The polygamy section, just like it in one fell swoop, you render again all of your women invisible and all of your queer folk, because each Asian country has their own thing with queerness.
Mm.
Yep.
East Asian countries included. Like, my only snarky comment for the dudes who wrote this was, did you not read any samurai text at all? There's an entire book on the Shinsengumi, for example, and their queer relationships together. So and that was also power. Samurai were doing marriage vows, from what I remember in my research, since the 1600s. That was for power as well, and that was also for honor, as you say it. So, hello, where's this coming from? And the Filipino family does not have polygamy. We don't do that. At least not for the Catholic side, right? Because Catholic man and woman, right?
Yeah.
But because of that, we have a very strong mistress culture, and how that's supposed to be okay, because the stereotypical Filipino wife is portrayed as the one that keeps her husband honest.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not cool either.
Oh,
so
this second
again,
sorry. The
layers.
I don't know why I read ahead. Oh, the second paragraph is bad.
For later on, Pam, like I'm Vietnamese, I'm a first gen Canadian, but like Catholicism and like the way it's affected like my life, we need to talk about that shit.
Yes.
That's a podcast. That's a podcast.
That is a podcast.
Call it Asian Represent. Episode is Catholicism, and we're gonna get so many views.
Okay, there we go. We'll make this happen.
Bring me back if you like.
No, not if we'd like. It's gonna happen. Okay.
I want to hear this.
Steve, write this down somewhere in your notebook. We'll make this happen. That's the next episode.
Cool.
It's also interesting too, because I just have so much stuff when it comes to poly. Because I am poly, for example, and legalistically, where are the laws that support that? They're nowhere. And I'm not even going to touch upon a narrative that is not my own. I don't know how those things go with other cultures, and I will not speak about it because that is their job. Or if they choose, rather, that's their labor if they choose to do it. Mm-hmm. But one thing I will say is that I'm pretty sure it's not cool if they're going to see that paragraph as well. And on the pre-colonial side, what I know about my research, especially from my friends as well, is that we used to get married to a mortal spouse and to a spirit. Now that's like metal as fuck, and that's very, very Southeast Asian. Where is that versus this? Like, it's a fantasy world, and you're telling me I can't marry a spirit for power, for honor with my family, and have a mortal spouse that I also love?
Or you're gonna put all this about marriage and not be like, if this happens, there's a huge fucking party.
Yeah, right. Or like how is that? What are you saying? I'm just baby maker. That's it. I don't.
Well, that's apparently what they say in the second paragraph.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Polygamy greatly confuses the issue of relationships. As a rule, the first or principal wife is the most favored. Her children are eligible for direct inheritance. Those of other wives are not. However, the father could choose to favor the children of a later wife, especially if they are more talented or their mother more loved, skipping over those of the first wife. Furthermore, the first wife might bear only daughters, while the first son of the family comes from a later wife. Typically, each wife could try to maneuver the others out of the picture to secure the husband's favors for her children. Relatives of various wives can also get into the picture. The family of the first wife may be insulted by slights to her and her children, while powerful relatives might try to impress the husband with the benefits of a second or later wife. So
these kinds of sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
We have a short story I can also show you guys. It's called The Chiefest Mourner. And the reason why that story exists is that it plays upon two things: the mistress culture and the social maneuvering of a wake when somebody dies. There is a sick joke in the Philippines where if your father dies, some of your relatives might tell you, hey, watch out, you might meet your other siblings.
Wow.
So not cool.
I think
the chief, the chiefest mourner is you are you get into the shoes of a little girl whose uncle was a poet, and then you find out that he had another woman. And the entire story is from her perspective, showing how the original wife tries to socially maneuver the mistress out of the picture, even though the mistress was the one who loved the husband. She did not marry for status. But in our society, you are the mistress, meaning people get it, that you have to do this because the wives are like that. And it's just a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
This is
A lot.
I mean, the whole thing here is that like they in the text here, they pit all of the women in a family against each other. Their only use so far in this handbook is to produce sons for the men,
Yeah.
and be there to get the men more power. And
Yeah.
in order to do that, women fight with each other so that they can't get anything, but their man can. And it's so stupid. And for me, like, I see this on a less dramatic level with my family. Like, my family, it's not a polygamy thing, but this whole idea of the first son is like, it's so fucked up. Like, so for me, I am the first son, and I am I am the first son's first son. And yeah, so my dad, so this is a little story and why, like, I get really upset about this shit. So my dad was born in a small village in southern China, and he has 2 older sisters. And then he has 2 younger siblings, a younger brother and a younger sister. When my dad was 3 years old, my grandma and my grandpa packed everything that they owned and carried my dad to Hong Kong. And they left the 2 elder sisters in the village with family until they were teenagers. They went to Hong Kong and they started a business. And when they had enough money, they brought the sisters over. Then they had my dad's younger sister when they were in Hong Kong. And then when my dad was 11, they moved to Canada. There, they had my dad's younger brother. I would say, like, at this point, 7 or 8 years ago, my grandparents' will was kind of revealed to everyone. And it turns out that my dad and my uncle are the only ones that get anything. And so I have tons of cousins. Most of them, like, aren't dudes. And it's just my brother and I. And I have one other cousin, my cousin Andrew, but his mom, who is my dad's older sister, got divorced. And he doesn't have the Kwan name, but I do. And so about 7 or 8 years ago, my brother and I, but mostly me because I'm the older son, my brother and I started experiencing extreme resentment from all of our family members. And this came as a shock to me because I had a really good relationship with my aunts and uncles growing up. Used to, my dad worked a lot, so they used to take us out to movies and, take care of us. And now all of a sudden they resent us. And all of my dad's siblings started fighting for this inheritance. And the only one who took care of my grandparents during this time was my dad. And so, like, seeing this shit and seeing how, the dudes benefit from this, it's just, it kills me. It kills me. Because, like, I hate this. I hate the idea that, just because you are the son, things are great for you. Because they greatly discount the relationship that anybody has with every other member of their family. Because in this paragraph, they basically say, it's going to be good for you if you're a dude because all the women in your life, especially if you're wealthy enough to have multiple wives in this stupid ass book, will do everything in their power to make sure you get what you deserve and what you need. And that is the ultimate, like, white nerd fantasy right there.
It is.
Meanwhile, my mom made me, like, learn all this, like, homemaker stuff on the specific phrase, and she can probably hear me being like, your wife's not going to do this for you. You better fucking do it yourself. like that was literally the reasoning of like Your wife's not gonna do this shit. Learn to do your fucking laundry.
I'll premise my own story with my parents are very different, but that's only because they've had very different experiences from their peers.
Mm-hmm.
My father, for example, is not like other Filipino men of his generation who will insist that it is a woman's work, therefore it's beneath them. My dad, on the other hand, would say, "You're not a man if you cannot A, cook, B, drive, C, shoot, D, do your own clothes, and E, make your bed, and F, clean your bathroom. You're not a man if you can't do that."
I can do 5
And
of 6.
he's right. He's extremely different though from most men. And the first son angst in the Philippines is different because if you are panganay, the eldest, yes, the family name does ride on you and everything, but that's only if you're the dude. If you're the girl, you only have two fates in front of you: get married so you get out of the house, or take care of your parents till you die
Yeah.
if you don't get married. So, and women again are seen like all girls are seen as must protect them because the world is evil and another man might somehow trip and make you pregnant, I guess.
Oops.
You know,
Gotta be careful. You get pregnant.
be
Just like
boom, it's gonna happen, right?
Oh,
And
God.
it's difficult because I don't even know where to start with how inheritance will go and everything. I grew up again with my parents telling me, "Do not get married if you don't love the person," only to hear literally all of my other relatives and my parents' friends saying either to them or to me, "Why aren't you married yet?" And I turn around and I see stories of the mistress. That's really what they say when some guy dies or when there's something up. Like, "Oh, does he have a mistress? Kaya pala. Oh, it's like that, I guess." Right. And they will tell wives, "Hey, you better watch out because you have to make your husband honest."
Oh my God.
I'm smiling now again because I read it already because I kind of had to like whoosha my rage out
Yeah.
over it.
Oh, boy.
Birth order here. Like white people don't even start talking about it. You don't know what you're talking about. You
Yeah.
don't.
Also, my dad did everything growing up.
yeah.
Like my dad
Right?
was like the cook, did a lot of the cleaning, did yeah. Oh man.
I have memories of like my mom cooking and like me as a child being like, "Oh, that's normal," and my dad cooking and being like, "Oh, what a hero!"
Yeah.
Just like to like break the mold. And it's only as an adult I realized that like I had really internalized a lot of like this stuff and like the harm it did. And here it is on display for white people to play with and just like take advantage of.
Yeah.
All removing all of like a lot of the complexity that like real Asian people do feel. Oh boy.
Oh boy, I
boy.
told you we're not gonna get to honor.
I still want to have that honor rant at the end because I have
We're not.
takes.
We're gonna,
We will definitely have time for the honor rant because I feel like everyone who has an honor rant should have the platform to say their
yeah.
honor.
We'll close it with an honor rant.
Hell yeah.
So okay, so I've just been doing some reading ahead, and like a lot of this stuff is not as bad, but that they set a really low bar here.
Are you going to touch on deaths? Because
Yeah.
I read ahead as well, and like deaths is a very interesting part here.
Yeah, I wanna talk about that mostly because it's. Do you wanna go to it, Steve?
Yeah, I'm not going to read it. I don't feel like reading this part, but what I do feel about talking about is that we talked about how Asians are uncivilized as represented in this, and that they're to be saved. And I would love if someone were to correct me on like AD&D rules, but codifying random deaths in your family to me reads as, wow, what savages.
Well,
fact
it's like people's lives don't matter.
Exactly. You have these people, you have these women that are baby machines. They pump out babies, and as such, accidental, and that's a word from the book, accidental deaths just happen, and it happens via roll of the die.
Yeah, it was because people have no value because to the colonizer, to the outsider, they are, like we talk about, savages in need of salvation.
Yes.
Right. I know there are a lot of people in the chat I'm calling you out, Joe. I know there are a lot of people in the chat who know this stuff, so please let us know if this death thing on page 32 on the bottom right of page 32 is a regular thing in AD&D. Regardless, it just doesn't work for Asians, and I think that's one thing that we see universally for comments on these videos on YouTube. It's like, oh, well, that was in all the other AD&D books, or that was already here. It's just like, the point is not that entirely that, that is how it works and it's problematic because comeliness is just shitty. Even though comeliness was in some unearthed arcana, I don't care. The fact that it's associated with Asians,
Yes.
and the fact that it is, portrayed as mandatory to an Asian character is what's problematic.
Yeah. It's also not your story to tell.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're a whole bunch of white people who wrote this, and then you're telling me that I'm just supposed to take it because that's the system.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder why we end up making our own stories.
It's like,
And
because-
yeah.
it's like, write what you fucking know. And if you think your story's boring, well, that's because you're boring. Like, I don't give a shit.
Well, here's the thing, like,
Don't take my stories.
Write what you fucking know. First of all, write what you fucking know is a shirt. But if you say write what you fucking know, I guarantee you there are still going to be the same people who are like, well, I spent a summer in college in Tokyo. There's still going to be those people.
Like, great, you spent your summer in fucking Tokyo. I spent 3 weeks in Montreal. You want me to write a thing about Montreal?
Poutine.
The
Portuguese community.
You're done.
Old
my
Montreal.
favorite-
Body kits on your random
Friend.
cars.
Harsh winters.
Yeah. I have a Filipino friend. I totally love your country. I'm like,
Well,
Oh, see
fuck
that's
you.
the thing, and that's the thing when we go back to, the idea of heroes of the Orient, and it's like, yes, you want to do right by, fixing this mistake, and that's admirable, but really the right thing to do, especially from this conversation that we're having right here, the right thing to do is just to not have it and not do it again, and let people who can actually tell these stories tell them.
Yeah.
That's always the best solution. Let's move on so we can make it to Jay's rant, because I'm watching the
I
clock.
think Pam also has a rant too, right?
Oh my god, okay, let's end on 2 rants.
So as much as I want to go through it, I promised myself that when we do these, I would find like good stuff that I find really interesting, and like I'd be like, I would bring that over to my game. I like that a lot.
Mhm.
There is something here I really, really like. It's actually under birthrights. And if you look at birthrights, there's some shitty stuff. I'm not going to go through that. But there is something that talks about armor quality and weapon of quality. And what it says, if I read the text explicitly, is the character has been given one of the family's minor heirlooms.
You skipped over. Okay, cool.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I skip over too far? I thought we were going to break some honor.
You skipped a whole page.
Yeah, I did.
But I was going to say that we're going to skip that page because it's not really...
Just tables.
I went through it and it's like...
Okay, let's go to birthright. Let's do it.
Yeah,
I just wanted to make sure that the audience knows what we're doing.
I appreciate it. Thanks, producer Daniel.
You're welcome.
But of this entire section, the one thing that I really liked as like a GM and like designer, professional TRPG writer,
Best-selling TTRPG
best-selling, yeah, is the armor of quality and weapon of quality. It reads, the character has been given one of the family's minor heirlooms, a suit of armor or weapon of quality, see treasure, blah, blah, blah. If it is an armor of quality, so on and so forth, such items cannot be given away or sold since they belong to part of the family. The character is expected to pass these items through his family in later years. It's not perfect. There's problems with that.
Yeah.
But the idea of by how you happen to like be born and who your family is, things like that, you might be given something of quality. And the expectation is that like you might take that thing of quality and like do something with it. That speaks to me.
Yeah.
I really like that. And I think it allows me as a player and as a GM to spin some very interesting, very meaningful stories.
yeah.
Here's the thing though, you just don't need a table for this.
You don't, but I'm scraping the bottom barrel here, Daniel.
I'm sorry, Steve. I'm sorry.
I'm trying really hard here, Daniel.
You know what,
I'll back you up in a
add
bit.
to
I'll
this a
back you
bit.
up in a bit.
You know what, Steve? I appreciate you.
Oh,
You're so good.
I
You're a great
appreciate
person,
you,
Steve.
You're great, and I'm very glad that we get to do these on Fridays.
thank you. I do too. I tweeted about this. I look forward to these Fridays because although there's a lot of labor involved with it, as cliche as it is, it's a labor of love. I think it's very important to look back on these things that are so far removed from like our current community and space to say, look at these things that people have done. Look how they've perpetuated and how the ripple effect has happened and like the things that we see today. And let's talk about those things so that maybe in the future, we can make better, wiser decisions about it. That's it. No, Pam, please. Pam, always interrupt me. Pam, always interrupt me. I always want to hear what you have to say.
Yes,
holy
always.
shit.
I think we should make a rule, Steve, that guests could just interrupt us as much as they want because they are the stars.
I have already internalized that rule. Yes.
No, but I think we
tell what's on your mind.
Formalize it.
Done.
I really do like, though, how you brought up the idea of heirlooms because we get the weirdest stuff, at least weird from a white lens. I wish I could bring it upstairs, but in my family we have an urn that is half of me. That's how big it is, and it's downstairs in my living room. Now that urn was dug up from our ancestral property. Like we have things like that. In my father's room right now, there is a statue of Saint Joseph, and I grew up with that statue. And by the time I saw it, of course, it was kind of wrecked and everything. But he's holding the baby Jesus, and it looks like he's walking towards the audience. It's a beautiful statue. And all my parents knew was that was the patron saint of one of the galleons that my family down in Batangas used to own. So it used to be on a boat. It's supposed to protect the boat when it goes out on its shipping routes. That's what we knew. But then a scholar priest friend, that sounds so badass, I know, like a scholar priest friend, came to a family dinner and he geeked out about the statue and said that particular image and that particular pose and the fact that it is gold leafed and that it is of Saint Joseph carrying the baby Jesus, that is rare. You have a museum piece in your house. So there are so many interesting, like if you want to scrape at the bottom of the barrel, I got you, man, and get that one cool thing in this section, that I'd argue is good for a table and good for examples, because you do have a lot of diasporic Asians and even ones that are based in their own country that do not know their family stories and their ancestors, their older relatives are dying. You don't know what they've got. I can also post on Twitter. I can show you guys the swords that my grandfather got in World War II. He inherited them. We have a little shrine to him, and he has that. We have so many interesting heirlooms, some of them associated with pain and with historical events that not everybody is cool with, and others are associated with the most quirky stories. We also have a treasure chest, a literal treasure chest that used to be full of gold that my ancestor, I think she was my great-great-grandaunt, would give alms to the poor. So she'd literally just put her fist in the chest and just toss it on the street to people because she was the matriarch of her clan. And her name was what was inherited, because before this conservative crap, women, if they were part of a wealthy or well-to-do family, it was her name that you married into because her blood is worth more than yours. So there's just so much possibility here if you really want to focus on that. And you could help people that are not from home learn more versus just Googling up legends and myths that are actually distant from our experience. You could ask your friend, hey, do you have a weird thing in your house? And is there a story to it? And you could write an entire campaign about it. My other grand uncle had a sword cane that he killed people.
What? Yeah. What?
Fucking yeah.
Wait, what?
Yeah, I have so many ancestral stories because my dad.
Please.
I want a fucking sword cane. I'm not using a sword, but I want a sword cane.
What? You can't just say. You can't just casually say my grandfather had a sword cane.
I love that. Like you got to like a really like heartfelt, like giving alms to the poor. Also sword cane. Let me blow past
No, he's a sword cane that he used to.
Sword
that
cane.
he used to. Yes, thank you, Ajay. That he used to kill people, and then you casually move on.
One thing I want to like kind of bring up on like Steve's point of like this is like a cool idea. Like, okay, self plug. The balanced stat archetype in New Braemar. You know, you're all twos for Genesis. The ability you get is heirloom, and instead of having a fucking percentile dice table like Gary Gygax did. I'm talking to the VOD right now. Gary Gygax relied too much on D100s to do the role playing for you. It sucks. New Bramer just says, here's your heirloom. Write your own story.
Yes.
I will.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna defend Gygax, but I will say something about tables.
Sure.
Now, we as creators, we as personalities, we as Steve, best-selling TTRPG writers, I will always say that for you now. We often say like, oh yeah, well, tell your own story. I think that one thing to always consider is that not everyone has the confidence, the skill, or the experience of telling stories, and tables can be very helpful for that reason.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
these tables must be designed with purpose.
And
Yeah.
like I've
So,
been
so
like,
I just
yeah.
and not to
I agree.
shoot down what you said, but I will say that it's one thing to say like, oh well, I don't need pre-written text, or I don't need that. Well, there are people who also need that, but they should be, like Ken in the chat has said, optional.
And like I've been like tinkering with TTRPG adaptation of Pathologic. I've been ranting to Steve about it. And like there are tables in that, but they're very intentional about like,
Yes.
here are specific questions that specifically advance the story you're trying to tell that benefit from randomness, as opposed to a little thing being like, on a failure, you hear the worst thing you could have wanted to hear. Like PBTA has better prompts often. Like PBTA moves often have better prompts than a D100.
Oh yeah,
Like,
always. But
could
that's
also
also why
actually-
PBTA can be harder for new gamers as well.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
You could also check Sword Dream in specific, not OSR as wide, but Sword Dream, which is one of the first communities that welcomed me into design. And they are very, very, very intentional about their tables. It
love
takes
that.
them months to make one. And when you see the product, it's like, oh, that's why, because there's just so much meat in this. And that goes back to my original point of if you don't know where to start, ask a friend.
Yeah.
Because at least in my setting, you will always have that one friend. By the way, I am the friend for many of my people.
I am also that
one
friend.
friend
Rant to
with
me.
the weird stuff. You know?
Apparently, a sword cane that was used to kill people.
Fucking sword cane.
I can't forget. I can't undo that.
He's also the relative. I have so many stories about that uncle. He's also the relative that reputedly punched a shark. Yeah, that was a thing.
I thought that.
What?
I thought that was only something I got to do in Assassin's Creed Odyssey.
I think I was crazy. There's a term called baliw.
Yeah.
It means crazy in Tagalog. But if you change the pronunciation to baliw, it's a different kind of focus. So it's the thin line between insanity and brilliance. That is baliw. And that was my uncle, my grand uncle, who punched a shark and had a sword cane. Yes.
A sword cane that
God.
killed people.
15 minutes.
Yes. Because he was, just know he was an asshole. I will put that out there. I'm related to him, but he's an asshole.
By the way,
what
that's
he
my
did
brother. Say hi.
was hi. What he did was he had a reputation for sleeping around, and a lot of men in town got pissed off because we come from an area called Taal in Batangas, close to where the volcano exploded. Yes, and he reputedly led a bunch of guys to a small alleyway, and they didn't know that his cane was a sword. That was how he managed to defend himself.
That's not as.
That's the story behind.
Not as cool.
Yeah. So it sounds cool, and then again, like the layers. You have the weird thing. You have the relative that had it. You have the story that it tells. You have the emotional resonance. So you could make an entire table about that, and that'd be so much more helpful to your players.
Like you could run a microscope game off that one sword cane.
Yep.
Off that one sword.
Yeah.
You know what would be really
Yes.
cool if there was a microscope hack and it was just about a single object and
Yes.
how it. Oh, Game design, game jam,
Game
right now.
fucking design, right there.
I get to finally use my archaeology degrees.
Yes, we're doing this. I will gladly join this Discord to like build this thing. Hell yeah.
Okay, yeah, message me after. So, shit. Yeah, I think the big lesson with this one, because I want to move Game Jam stream. Oh,
Yes.
okay.
Hook me up.
I think one of the things that we need to do is move on to the next page. This is producer Daniel speaking. I would love to hear Ajay and Pam, and so of course Steve, but I talk to Steve all the time. I would love to hear Ajay and Pam just like talk all day, but I realize that Pam is coming to us from the literal future. Pam is that amazing. Pam is literally a gift from the future.
She's a time lord.
Our future's looking very bright.
Our future's looking very bright. Oh, see, this is why you got to do an Asian stream.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna skip over to page 35 because we said we'd get here. And here come the drinks.
Here come the fucking drinks.
It's honor time. It's honor time.
And you go first.
So I'm gonna Steve and I, and as well as our guests for next week, will be diving into this entire it's only 2 pages. This entire terrible 2 pages on honor, and then money and equipment next week. Next
I like how
Friday.
you said like it's only 2 pages, but we spent this entire
I
time
know.
4 pages, skipping 1. So
That's true. So I think what we're going to do is I'm going to read the first paragraph of the honor section. And then we will end our stream with both of your rants. Steve and I, we have the luxury of having the luxury. It's not a luxury. Steve and I are going to rant about this next Friday too.
this is our
Actually,
labor.
Dana, can I do the reading? Because I want to read this.
Yes, do it. Thank you.
Power, wealth, and position. All these mean nothing to a character of the Oriental word if he is without honor. Honor is a reflection of his character and the character of his family. It is a measure of worth in the society, his dependability, his personal character, his trustworthiness, his decency, and more. The honor of a family affects the honor of a character and vice versa. With honor comes respect, power, influence, and position. Without it, characters can expect disrespect, humiliation, and insults.
Okay, so I don't think we should say anything about this because we're gonna get to this next week. But I think since Ajay read it, we're gonna go to Pam, and then we're gonna end with Ajay. We'll give you some time to recover from that. Really.
Solid snake
I want to.
fucking-
I want to let you recover from your moment of method acting as a white person in the 80s. Because that's the dialogue that you just read. Pam, let's hear your thoughts on this.
I mean, you see my face, right?
Yeah.
I don't know where to begin. Because I mentioned it earlier in the stream for the people who just came in. That is not how you do things in the Philippines. Like, white person, stop telling me how you think my family goes.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, the snarkiest way that I could put this is so obviously written by a white dude in one of the most white bread areas of the States, because you don't know the meaning of drama, you don't know the meaning of sacrifice, and you certainly don't know the meaning of honor. We don't even use honor down here to describe things. In fact, what is more accurate to us is shame and duty,
Guilt.
and obligation. It is not honor. That's a weird kind of like, oh, I'm trying to be good to my Japanese friends whose culture I worship sort of thing there. It's so weeb, it's disgusting. Because again, I mentioned utang ng loob, a debt of your soul that gets inherited, that you carry. The first thing people will ask you is, what will your parents think What will your aunt think?
Mm-hmm.
What will you be able to live with yourself doing this? And you owe that person a lot. You can't even, there are times where utang na loob will tell you, you can't even make certain asks from that person because of what they did for you or your family. So like, don't even touch that if you don't know what it means to live in a setting where literally everybody knows everyone. I've had people ask me for casual, like it's considered casual conversation down here to ask, oh, your last name is so-and-so. Are you from this province? Do you know this relative in this position?
My mom does
It's
Mhm.
right. It's not about your skill. It's about who you know, and who you know can often mean everything. And if you don't know these things, nobody is going to tell you. You learn it by observing, because children don't speak. You learn a lot of things by sitting in the background and seeing what your parents get up to. And some of these secrets in the family will not be told to you until you're older, when they realize that, right, there are legacies that you have to inherit, and there are mistakes that were made that you also have to undo. So like this book it screams to me like a fanboy who thinks he knows my politics. That's not how it works. And you forgot the fact that most households here, the women are very, very strong. They have to be, because you have a weird kind of, I don't know whether to call it Filipino. It's hard for me to say because our history is rife, but you have a very weird balance of women being in charge, but also women having to do the whole soft power thing,
Yes.
where you wield your femininity to get your way. And you learn very quickly that if you don't wield it right, if you don't have the strange contradictory mix of innocence, but also the sinister female nature in you, you're not going to get shit done. And no matter what, they will judge you for your decisions. So this entire honor section is just total BS to me.
Yeah.
Because you're not talking about everything around it. And like, I feel so bad for my Japanese friends.
Oh no, they put it in here. Sorry, I just read ahead. There's literally a line, and it just says, "He has dishonored his family."
Oh no. Oh
Yeah.
fucking no.
Like,
Okay.
it's stupid.
We're approaching the 2-hour mark.
Okay.
Okay, take us home. I don't want to say take us home.
I mean,
Finish your drink and let's do this.
Mhm.
oh boy,
All right.
what do you got for me?
So the
do you got for us?
funny thing is, the funny thing is that Pam went on a completely different direction than I did. Because I thought about like, okay, honor, stuff you would need to make a roll for an honor. That's rep. That's reputation. That's it. You don't have to make it a big Asian thing. Like Pathologic 2 has a reputation system.
Yeah.
Like Pathologic 2 has a more in-depth reputation system. It's not an Asian thing. Like you could literally have that whole thing about like like power, wealth, and position. That's what your reputation gets you in the wild, wild west. It's not necessarily an Asian thing to care about what other people say about you. It's not necessarily an Asian thing to carry the legacy of your family. Like, that's not the Asian part. If you really wanted to build on the Asian theme of familial baggage, you don't make it a thing about you dishonor my family. Like, in Bolt, like one of the character sheet things that I'm going to put in for the Desi modern fantasy setting is not honor, it's what do your parents think about what you're doing? Because that matters a lot fucking more than what the Bande name means. Because Bande is a common name. Like, there's not a whole lot of honor attached to the Bande name. What matters is what my mom says. And she may hear me as I was saying this, but like, well, that's what matters. More than honor, more than reputation. Like in real life, if I'm talking to someone, I say my name's Ajay Pandey, they're not going to roll a D100 to react to what my family name means to them. It's not what's going to happen. They might roll a D100 to be like, who's this guy? What do I know him for? is he that weirdo on Twitter? Like, that's reputation. That's not like when people say honor, like it has like literally like Daniel, when you were like on the tweets, like there's this one reply guy who kind of like got into a whole thing about it, and he was like, well, I guess I have to give up that fantasy of a mystical world of mystery,
that guy.
defined by a world with honor. And I'm like, listen, dude. Like,
sit the fuck down.
listen, dude. Like, yes, in India, you get places politically by knowing people. That's how the politics works. But knowing people,
but that's not uniquely Asian. That's not uniquely Asian either.
It's like it's rep. It's knowing people. It's having a skill in your game called recall people.
That's it. If we were, we should redo the character sheet.
Bolt has that skill.
with relevant. I mean, like, we're gonna get to the part where you like tell everybody about your stuff. But I love how they take these concepts, the idea of honor, obligation, family, and they twist them to try to make them uniquely Asian things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. They had this whole thing about family, but they had nothing in that paragraph about once your parents hit a certain age, your character is obliged to have them in their house. That's not in the giant page. The familiar bullshit. Nothing about, oh, your parents are expected to live in your house now. Nothing.
Not with Toronto's real estate market.
I mean, like, that's the thing. Like, if I have a house of my own, it's going to be sized for my parents. And my in-laws, too.
That's the expectation.
That's part of the expectation. I am the firstborn child. Like, my house has to fit my parents and my in-laws. That's kind of how it goes.
Yeah, I think it's... Again, I think it's distancing. I mean, let's say the intended audience and the writers of this book want to distance universal, hard to, I want to say like hard to handle, hard to digest universal concepts that people find uncomfortable, like obligation, like guilt, like shame, and make them Asian things.
It's like, no, guilt's everywhere.
And it's everywhere. Speaking of which, we have the internet, which is also everywhere. We are at the end of our stream, unfortunately. I'm sorry, Steve. I know we could go.
You preface it with like, Steve, everything about honor, you gotta hold it inside for one more 7 days. You gotta hold it for
7 days,
week.
Steve. You could do this.
I can do this.
You can do this, Steve.
Because my experience with honor is very different because of course, like, I'm first generation Canadian. I did not grow up in Vietnam. But like, honor has affected me in a very interesting way. And this that's on the page is shit. And I would love to talk about it a week from now.
We're going to talk about it a week from now. So for those of you who are joining us, make sure you follow us on Twitch. If you came in late, because I saw there are a couple people in the chat who came in late, this is going to go up on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/AZNSrepresent. It'll go up there. I also never got around to posting our Thousand Arrows actual play from Representicon, so that's also going to go up.
It's so good.
Yeah, I'm gonna put that up. Miriam's trying to get you to talk about honor, Steve, but no, you're not going to. You're not going to.
Come back next week.
Yes, come back next week, Steve. Hashtag content. Hashtag content.
Hashtag comment.
Hashtag content.
Hashtag
Colonel.
We've already reached out to some people to like be guests here, so maybe like it's a duality. It's like a quadrality.
Are you
of,
talking
about
about
honor?
obligation, Steve?
No, that seems silly. That's something only the Orientals do. Oh, I don't like that. I hated that.
Oh, that's terrible, Steve.
That
My
was
entire
gross.
body just
Steve,
cringed
go and listen to the
involuntarily.
listen to the first 8 hours of this show.
Go sit in a corner.
I thought we were at a point where like I can make that joke and like it'd be okay, but it turns out it's not. So I apologize because that was gross.
You know what, Steve?
That was gross.
You know what, Steve? Thank you for owning up to that, because I also think that this is also about forgiveness and friendship. Some might even say family, but not the people who wrote this book.
You're not welcome here.
You're not welcome here, apparently.
You're not welcome.
So, let's go to Ajay. Ajay, where can people find you on the internet? What are you
Yes.
doing? Tell us all about it.
What am I doing? Okay.
I thought you were ready.
You can find me on the internet at Ajay Pandey. It's just my name. Nothing special about it. That's my Twitter handle. That is where you can hear me rant about how to run play-by-post games and how to make all of your characters cry in a good way. Ting in the chat can attest to my GMing style, as can POC TTRPGs.
Great people.
Great folks. GMing is fun. You can also hear me talk and rant about Bolt, which is me trying to write a heartbreaker that is equal parts Cyberpunk 2020, Genesis, and a little bit of Powered by the Apocalypse, as well as a few kind of new takes on health and leveling and skill checks. It is real fun. It is me bringing back crunch to the story game genre and bringing story games to the crunchy OSR genre. And it is super fun and is my take on decolonizing or trying to decolonize
Cyberpunk
game engines. Just in general, it's fun.
Cool. So I think, Steve, we have another person who we should bring in for Asians and androids.
Asians and androids?
I cannot. I'm so like Asians
What
and
is
androids
this?
is like a thing that's so personal to me, and like I really want it to happen.
It's gonna happen, Steve. We're
Is this an actual play?
Yes, on Twitch.
I will 100% join, and I will play a fucking PhD student.
The only thing you can't do on Asians and androids is play as Scarlett Johansson because Banana Chan has already claimed that.
She's the greatest Asian actor of all time.
The greatest Asian actor of our generation, Black Widow.
Also, here's another thing that makes my story Daisy American. I always think of what the engineering PhDs are doing.
Oh my god.
Hey, I'm a PhD dropout. I'm a PhD
You're
dropout.
archaeology, though. I'm thinking about.
Wow. There's
PhDs.
apparently there's levels to this. I feel hurt.
Only because I know the PhDs in engineering.
Somebody clip that.
I almost went the PhD route, and then I realized I would prefer a house money.
No. Producer Steve is like, no, Daniel, you can gush about this later on. You can take us offline. You can circle back on this. You can sync up later on. But Pam, I think our audience really wants to know where they can find you, where they can find their work, who are you, and what are you working on? Yeah, all that other stuff. Answer all my questions.
Everything.
Well, it came up earlier, but welcome back to the stream for those of you guys who caught the tail end. You can find me at the Dovetailer on Twitter. It's also the Dovetailer on Patreon and the Dovetailer on Itch. So if you want to talk about reclaiming stuff, weird things, queer stuff, and supernatural stuff, and all the difficult things in between, that's me. I'm best known for my Blades in the Dark things. I currently have 2 running campaigns called Hungry Dogs Are Never Loyal. And what's nice about that is you are holding a revolution. You're running a crew because where I come from, you are criminal by rebelling. It's not about doing crime. The government is the one that decides that you are evil. So you take that evil and you fight and eat the rich. That's what it's about. And if you want to go for the other side of things, for the queerness, I do have a game called Asian Acceptance. That's the one where you get to play a queer person. You are all that queer person's emotions, and every time something attacks your heart, that is the tower, you must make a poll. And my other major project is Sundo. You play psychopops that do not realize that they were once human, and the world is a lie as you recover your memories of your past self using PTBA. So I would totally appreciate the support right now. If you want to ever talk about supernatural things or hire me as an editor or a sensitivity consultant, you may. I've been on several products. I'm currently in NDA land for 2 of them, so I cannot talk about that. But I forgot to mention, in one of the upcoming books for The Spire. I was asked to write for that. Awesome. So you can check me out there. And expect to see more of the major things in the future, together with hopefully some Kickstarters if I can get that started. So
boom, get that money.
Holy
Yeah.
fucking shit.
Right?
Please, if you
Get
wanna
that
if you wanna
money.
learn Blades in the Dark, I can find a good time zone for you.
Folks.
They call me Pamu, Queen of Knives, because
Hell
Blades
yeah.
is my thing.
Hey, I want to
So-
learn
Find
Blades.
Pam's twit, find
I
Pam's
wanna
itch,
learn
and buy out
Blades.
the entire store.
Yeah, let's do that, please. Okay. Wow, Steve, I don't. Let's just not talk about ourselves.
Buy Unbreakable.
Buy
Yeah, we're-
Unbreakable. Buy Unbreakable. UnbreakableRPG.com.